So I'm starting my meditations in the book of James, and I didn't get past the first sentence. James 1:1 says, James, a servant of God and the Lord Jesus Christ. And I've been thinking, I've been thinking about that because it's such a weird identifier, right? This entire society is identifying themselves lately, and James identifies, but he doesn't identify himself as like I thought he would. He identifies himself as a servant. So who is this James? Is what I asked him. What's the big deal? Why should I listen to him? Well, I've done a little research and discovered that James, before he was, as he identified himself as a servant, he was a brother. He was the brother of Jesus. He grew up in the household with Jesus. He was one of 3 other brothers, as well as some sisters. Mark chapter 6 tells us that names James as one of the brothers, and that blows me away. It must have been weird, right? It must have been interesting. That meant that they were under the same roof together. They ate at probably the same table together. They probably played in the same streets together. Maybe used the same bathroom, slept in the same room, knew the same people, had the same parents. And yet in Luke chapter 7, although James was around Jesus for, let's just say 25 years, because Jesus started his public ministry when he was 30. Once his ministry started, James didn't believe in him. He didn't believe in him. In Luke chapter 7, it says his brothers did not believe in him. In fact, they wanted him to leave. They were embarrassed of him, almost resentful. Here's this public figure doing all this stuff, and it's my brother, yeah. And it's just so interesting to me. When I think about what I just was saying there, the question is, what takes, a brother to identify as a servant, as a bond servant? Well, James didn't believe in Jesus, didn't follow him. But then his brother was crucified. His brother was executed. And I'm not sure where James was on that day, but I can assure you, in my heart, in my gut, he knew about it if he wasn't there, but I believe he was there. And all of a sudden, when your family members die, your thoughts about them change. When your brother is executed for crimes against the state, for lack of a better word, it brings thought to what was his life all about. But it's not until 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 7, where we discover an interesting event that the writer of that book, Paul, notates. And what he says is that after Jesus' resurrection, he appeared to a whole bunch of groups of people, sometimes as many as 500 at once. But there's one person listed that he appeared to individually, and that was James. James spent the first 30 years of his life getting his life together, living in the shadow of this religious freak that most people thought he was, his brother Jesus. And then all of a sudden something happens, and you kind of take notice. When your brother dies, that's sad, but when he dies and then lives, you kind of start to take, hey, maybe I should take him seriously. And Jesus had a conversation with James. And from that point, James' life dramatically and forever changed. You see, how do you identify as a servant when you're a brother? Very few people in their family are ever going to identify with their big brother as, hey, he's my Lord. He's my boss. I'm his servant. But when your brother conquers death and walks in and has a conversation with you, it's personal. And that's what happened. James became the leader in the church of Jerusalem. He became a powerful and prominent figure in the growing church that happened right after Christ's message of forgiveness and hope and his resurrection. Maybe you've been there. I know I have. I grew up in a religious home, always at church all the time. And yet there's this distance, this resentment, this skepticism that can happen because you don't really know if you buy into everything. Well, James has probably something to say to me. I started realizing that's what happens when your brother dies and then lives. You willingly join what he's invited you to. So James spent the rest of his 30 plus years giving his life away. He gave his life away. He was a pastor. He was called Old Camel Knees because he prayed so much his knees looked like the knees of a camel. First part of his life was getting his life together, distancing himself from his big brother. Second part of his life was giving his life away to all these people. James became a leader in the church. James became a prominent influencer in this growth of this Christianity, this movement called the Way. And then in AD 64, as this movement was exploding, the religious leaders, those people that wanted to suffocate and snuff out this new found religion, took him to the top of the temple in Jerusalem, asked him to denounce Christianity and to tell people to stop converting to it. And James didn't. He stood up and said, Jesus Christ is seated at the right hand of God the Father and is coming again. He is the way, the truth, and the life. This so infuriated the religious leaders that they grabbed him, threw him off the temple, and he fell, but he did not die. And broken and badly bruised, he got himself up to his knees. And as they came to stone him, he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. You see, even then, he was following in the footsteps of his brother. So here's the question, and this is what I've been thinking about. What takes somebody from being resentful to being a radical, from being, skeptical to being a shepherd, from being manipulative and to being a martyr? It takes an encounter with the living God. And so when James identifies himself as a servant, it's because I'm giving my heart to what my brother gave his life for. I'm giving my heart for other people. That's the name of the game. Other people. And James is going to really speak to this throughout the entire book of James. But it just blessed me. You see, James took a minute to get his life together, and then he had an encounter with his living brother who had been executed, and then he started giving his life away. And then at a moment when he had the opportunity to spare his life, he gave his death away. As he prayed for his accusers, just like his brother did on the cross. As he was true to what his heart and what his soul was committed to. Maybe you're like that, It really challenges me. Maybe I'm still trying to get my life together, but maybe I should consider giving it away. Just like Jesus did and just like James did. I don't know if this makes any sense. Hope it blesses you. It blessed me. I hope it gives you some perspective, builds your faith. Until the next time, be kind, be gracious, be good. Rep your hood.